So even if you're not in the dairy business, you know that the cream rises to the top. So that's the reason for the RSR cream process. We know here at Borden, we are the cream of the dairy business. And in order to maintain that lead on our competition, it really requires all of us to be on our game. The purpose of this training video is really to provide a framework to the entire RSR team across the Borden footprint. It kind of gives us a framework to run on, but at the same time, it gives you the freedom to really do and add things based on geography and your personality. We believe that that framework combined with authenticity really is what makes us the difference, allows us to really rise to the top. So what this is going to do is make sure we all are speaking the same language, and we call this the RSR Sales Playbook. And it does allow for some flexibility, so it's not too rigid because we know those things don't work. Now, my name is Bob Coakley, and I am your humble sales coach. And I've been working with Borden for the last several years, and I've got a chance to know you guys. And really, I'm just the voice in this video. I'm kind of the voice of all the people in the field because I've spent a lot of time actually going on deliveries, doing interviews, and really kind of absorbing and watching for how people do things. And what I like to do in this video is really kind of be their voice and share some of those best practices with you. So how does this work? Well, you're going to need to use your RSR sales book, and you can follow along. So it's really kind of a guided, self-guided kind of program. So if you're in training or maybe you've been at Borden a while, you can pick this up, start and stop the video wherever it makes sense. As well, if you want a refresher or reinforcement, maybe revisiting some ideas because you really want to bring your A game, you can kind of watch that section so you can look at the timing of the video. Now, in order to be prepared for this, you'll need your playbook. Kind of might look like this. On the inside, it looks something like this. So in this video, I'm going to just follow along in that playbook. And in addition to that, you're going to want to have your reference guide. This is going to be a pocket guide that will provide to you that kind of distills down the entire playbook into something that you can keep in your pocket. So you can guide along, do the program, start and stop based on the time you have. But at the end, you will know the Borden way. You'll know the Borden difference, and you can truly be successful out there. So what's the expectation? Well, the expectation is that you go through the video start to finish and really be engaged. There's a lot of opportunity in the video to jot down some thoughts and answers to slow down. This is not a check off the box type of video. Watch a movie, okay, it was great. This is about really absorbing it, thinking about it, and how can you apply it. My mother used to tell me, it's not what you know, it's what you do. So a lot of this stuff might look familiar, but you have to make sure you're actually doing it. So what's the expectation? That you step in, you embrace this, and then once you go through this, to have follow-up conversations with your DSL so you can close the loop and really talk about how you can apply this in the field. So let's get started. So in 1984, for the very first time, a U.S. gymnast by the name of Peter Vidmar scored a perfect 10 in the Olympics. I know when I was growing up, it was a big deal when the Olympics were on. It was that opportunity to, as a family, to gather around the TV and root on good old USA. And, during the 84 Olympics specifically in gymnastics, we really just, the Chinese and the Russians and Czechoslovakians, they had our number. They dominated these events. But this was an event held in Los Angeles in 84. And it was our year. It was when Peter scored that perfect 10. Well, I want to share with you how he went about getting it. So during that time in the Olympics, the scoring was done on a scale of 1 to 10. And if you do recall watching the Olympics, I don't know about you, but you'd watch one athlete do their routine, then the next athlete would go, and the scores might come out 9.2, then 9.6 and 9.3. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I'd look at that and it's like, I really can't tell the difference. Well, Peter talked about how Olympic scoring works. And basically, if you execute all the required elements of a routine, especially in gymnastics, which he was on the pommel horse, if you hit all those elements that were required and you did them flawlessly, and you did it when the cameras were on, when the judges were watching, you would score a 9.4. So think about that. You do everything they've asked, and you've done it perfectly when they're asking you to do it, and you only get a 9.4. You're probably feeling a little bit ripped off. I don't know about you, but I might, right? And what he talks about is in order to get a perfect 10, it requires a little bit more, right? So let's take and do a little bit of math. You were saying, I didn't know there'd be math. You might have to ask Siri on this, but if you take a 10 and 9.4, what's the difference? Yeah, 0.6, right? He further broke that 0.6 down into 0.2s, and he assigned this acronym to my left, ROV. He assigned a 0.2 to each one of these letters. And let me share with you what these letters were. So the first 0.2 is he assigned the letter R, which was risk. So in the course of doing his routine, he was focused on adding an element of risk to his routine, something that to you and I would appear to be risky. And you'd hear the TV commentators share, well, this is a risky move that he's going to add to it. But think about it again. He's got to execute all the elements, those fundamental elements, perfectly in the moment, and then add that element of risk. If he can do that, that's an additional 0.2, taking him from a 9.4 to a 9.6. So the second thing is he wanted to add an element of originality, something that the judges or the world hadn't seen in competition before, something original. Okay, once again, you've got to do all those basic fundamental elements they ask you to do. You've got to add that element of risk, and then he's adding that element of originality when it counts, when the judges are watching, when the TV cameras are on you. Talk about pressure, right? You do all that, he's now up to a 9.8. Now, the last one is virtuosity. Now, when I think about virtuosity, I think about a musician. A great musician is a virtuoso. And when you think about a virtuoso, they can take a sheet of music with notes that, when I listen to my daughter, I always think she's a virtuoso, but you can take one musician who can play that sheet of music and it's pretty good, right? But when a virtuoso plays that sheet of music, it's almost magical. It's like, even to you and I, if you're not trained in music, you'd say, wow, that's pretty special. That sounds great. Now in gymnastics, what Peter was trying to do was bring all the elements of his routines, those notes of his routines, and do it in the moment when the judges are watching, adding that element of risk, adding the element of originality and virtuosity, and bringing it all together with virtuosity, where when you and I even watch it, not even being trained in the sport, we look at it and we say, wow, that was pretty special. Okay, so why do I share that with you? I share it with you because we know that you have earned the right to be on this Olympic team. Being here at Borden, we're the cream of the crop, baby, and we know we're looking for the best, and we know you have the ability to deliver a perfect 10 performance. Now, any given day, we know you're delivering a 9.4, and that's pretty darn exceptional, and we don't believe our competition's doing that. But in order to maintain this leadership in the industry and really to kind of make the Borden difference come to life, it requires each and every one of us to kind of embrace this 0.2 mentality and look at each and every delivery we do and say, what can we do to add another 0.2 to this? How can I make this delivery even better? How can I give this customer even better customer service? How can I look out for something with them? And that's really kind of the philosophy and the mindset we want everyone to embrace, that, hey, we're not looking for good, we are striving for great. And that's going to require us focusing on doing the fundamentals flawlessly, all those things you do, right? But making sure you show up and do that today. And then how can I add a 0.2 to it? How can I make it just a little bit more special? All right, so in a moment here, we're going to jump in, grab your sales playbook, and we're going to get started on this ride. And by the end, hopefully you're ready to get out there and deliver a perfect 10 performance. Let's go. So as you go through this program, you're going to need two key things throughout. First of all is what you see here on the screen. It's the playbook, the RSR playbook. So you'll be able to follow along. You should have a hard copy that looks something like this. This is the front page. And as we scroll down, you'll see here's the table of contents, and we'll jump right in. So you're going to need that first of all. Now, the second thing you'll need is the cream process reference guide, the pocket guide. It will look something like this in hard copy, and we'll be able to fold this and put it in your pocket. But what this guide does is really distills down the entire playbook into a quick reference guide. And as we go through, I'm going to hit on each and every step here, get you to think about it, some of the things you already do, things you can do more consistently, and would like you to identify each step and have a customer that you can actually apply and execute on your route the very next day. So it's really critical that you have this card handy, because you'll be able to just jot down a note at the bottom, like, okay, I'm gonna really focus on the be likable, build credibility with this delivery tomorrow. Because once again, it's not what we know, it's what we do. And more importantly, what can we do on the very next delivery to make it even better, to grab those point twos. So have that card handy as well. Okay, lastly is you're going to see this slide pop up throughout the program. Think right. Throughout the program, we present some information, and then you'll see some questions. And those questions are to make you stop and think about some of the things that you've done in the past, some of the things you can do in the future that can help you bring that perfect 10 game. So stop, read the question, think about it, then jot down your answers. Then lastly, you'll have an opportunity to connect with your DSL or other folks in the organization, maybe other RSRs, to really close the loop and share some of your answers so you can be even better, even smarter, so you can grab those point two. So remember, when you see those questions and the think right, slow down, think, and write that stuff down. Okay, you should be back into the playbook. So we'll jump into the actual program itself now. You'll notice in one of the first pages there is the sales playbook overview. This is what we're going to go through in the entire playbook. We'll first focus on the introduction, a little bit about how we built this thing, and then we'll get into the 5 steps of the cream process: creating a connection, the 3 R's, engage and upserve, acknowledge, confirm, make it remarkable, and then lastly, how we're going to make this part of our regular routine, the follow-up and things like that. So let's go to the first page here with the Borden difference itself. Take a moment, you can read this page here, and this is going to be an opportunity for you to do one of those first think rights. There's 3 questions here. Take a moment, think about these questions, and write down your answers below. This page really sets us up to really understand how critical the RSR role is. You're the face of Borden. Each and every day, you're the ones interacting and making an impression on the customer. It's kind of make or break there. So, of course, the impact you have is immense. It's really the difference between winning and losing in this business. And there's never a bad time to be focused on this type of stuff, but I think every time you can think about it is, being better and being more focused, there's always a good reason to do that. And it makes sense, right? That we all have a similar process that we follow. But the good news is this allows some flexibility to make those adjustments where we know it makes sense. So hopefully you're on board with that, and you can be motivated to bring your just perfect A game each and every day. Just be challenged to bring those point twos. So let's talk a little bit about how we built this program so you know really where we got all this information. So as I mentioned before, I'm really just the voice behind all this great content. In order to build this program, it wasn't something we came in and said, hey, do it this way. We actually went out and did route rides with RSRs to find out and watch what they did. We watched some of the best, and what we tried to do is capture all those great ideas by going on several different routes to see what people did that delivered that exceptional cream of the dairy business experience. So it was everything from having meetings with leadership, having focus groups with RSRs, going out in the field and actually doing the routes with them, meeting with customers. So really what this whole playbook is a culmination of all those great best practices. So you can think about that for a moment. There's a question down below here. What are your thoughts on how this program was developed? So take a moment, think about that, and just write down your answer. Now, as you jump into this program, a lot of the things that you'll see will sound very fundamental and basic. And we understand that. But what we've found is the true professionals, the ones that get the best results, are the ones who execute those fundamentals flawlessly day in, day out. It's not what we know, it's what we actually do, right? So as you go through this, don't always think, well, I already do that. Think about, how can I do it better? And it's that type of mentality that we need to have in order to maintain our lead on everyone in this industry. So there are a few bullet points here to the left that you can take a look at. What does it mean to have that ownership mentality? And if we all have that, what kind of difference can that make for Borden, for ourselves, right? How can we commit to this? So take a couple of minutes. This is an opportunity to think and write. What do you expect from yourself as it relates to this program, as it relates to the cream process, and what do you expect from the program? So slow down, pause the tape, take a moment to think and write. So here's a high-level look of the cream process. So first, the C, create a connection. We have found that when the RSR creates likability with the customer, in addition to that, they have the professionalism, they have credibility, that they know what they're doing. That is critical. Number two is review, rotate, restock. That's the second part. When you're actually in the customer's store, that you do these things flawlessly. You're looking for the little things, because those little things are those point twos that can really help us deliver that exceptional experience. The next one is engage and upserve. We'll dive into this one, is where we really look out for the customer, that ownership mentality. How can we ask more questions? Be aware of some things that maybe the customer's not aware of. The next is acknowledge and confirm. And again, this is something, a lot of people might overlook, right? But at the end of your delivery, where you acknowledge anything that's going on, that you confirm what you've delivered, you might have to communicate maybe where some product you've been cut short, communicate the next delivery. Again, just a minute or two really can make a big difference. And then finally, make it remarkable, right? Anyone can bring product into an account, into a customer. But when we can do that and make it authentic and own it, where people say, hey, it's not just the milk guy, right? It's my milk guy's Bob the Borden guy, right? That's when we know we've really made a difference. We make it remarkable, and we make it hard for the rest of the vendors in there, because people are saying, I wish you were more like the Borden person. So I've shared this phrase earlier, freedom within a framework. What we have found is each and every route is just a little bit different. Each and every zone is just a little bit different. And it really requires each and every one of us to understand those differences and then adapt within this framework so we can deliver an exceptional experience. We know in any business, and especially in the dairy business, things happen. Sometimes we're short product. Sometimes there's issues at the plant. Sometimes there's issues with our vehicle, but it's the winners who take those challenges on head first and figure out a way to deliver an exceptional customer experience. So you might take a moment here to think and write down some answers to these questions here, because it can help you kind of think about how you'll approach dealing with those challenges that you come across when you're out in the field. So take a moment, think, and write this down below. So we want to address this sales is service, service is sales right out of the gate. We believe they go hand in glove. Great service increases sales. And when we're looking out to help the customer increase their sales, that is great service. So it's not about pushing product on anyone. It's about looking after them. What would you do to help them improve and increase their volume, and not just try to push product in there, because you and I know we're just going to have to take it out and dump. So when new products get introduced, how can you help them market it properly? How can you help them make sure that when you bring a product in, it's going to move out the front door quickly? So it really requires each and every one of us taking that ownership mentality. And even when we are dealt challenges, we overcome those. We work with the customer and build a great relationship with them. So take a moment, just marinate on this page, and then we'll jump into. So you've probably heard something like this before. People don't care what you know until they know that you care, right? People want to know that you care about them. And then once they understand that your intentions are good, they're open to your ideas. And so we start off with step number one, which is create a connection and build rapport. When we talk about rapport, we believe it's a combination of likability and credibility. Now, we know all these people, sometimes they're really likable, right? They can talk all day long. They have the same interests. Maybe you like to fish and they like to fish. Maybe you like football and they like football, right? So likability is an important factor. However, if we only have likability and we're not credible, then chances are we're not going to be as successful as we could be. Credibility refers to our professionalism, being on our game. And those are things, for example, here, like that we deliver the product the same time each and every day. All right. So if we're in there 3 days a week and we're there at 10 o'clock, we are like a Swiss timepiece. We're there at 10 o'clock. That's one of the things we heard that creates credibility, that I can trust you, right? And then on top of that, you're a nice person. You connect and have some kind of personal connection, and you're able to balance that out. And when you as an RSR can increase your likability and increase your credibility, that's going to give you great opportunities in the relationship. So as you think about this step here, take a moment and fill out this grid. What are some things that you do that create likability? Simple one, you smile and greet the receiver, right? People feel better when they meet you. You're not kind of a gray skies type of person. And then from a credibility standpoint, what are some things that you do there? For example, showing up at the same time so they know and they can count on you, and you don't disrupt all the other delivery people. Take a moment, fill out this grid, and answer the questions down below. So for every step in the process, we put a page like this, and it's a best practices page. It's a summary of ideas that we've got from our observations and interviews with RSRs. Now, many of these things should look familiar to you. What we'd like to ask you to do at this time is just read through this list and put a check next to one or two that you'd like to focus on even more. The ones where you can add some point twos to your routine. And maybe it's one that you've done in the past, but you'd like to execute at an even higher level. And then lastly, think about an upcoming delivery that you have and how you can apply this so you can be even more exceptional. You can probably finish this phrase: you never get a second chance to make a first impression. We've been taught that since we were small children, right? That first few seconds of any interaction really has an impact on the rest of it. So if we're meeting a new customer, it's really, really critical that we get it right, that we really are thoughtful about it. So one of the ideas that we put in here is being thoughtful about how you greet your customer. That's the first time, but the second time, the third time, how can you make that greeting more authentic and more personable so they're like, wow, I really like that person. Here are a couple of examples. Hey, Ricky, you're looking happy today, right? Just you bring a ray of sunshine into that account. And then the next step you'll see here is what we call deliberate rapport. It's a question that's kind of personal, but you can base it on your previous knowledge or experience with that receiver. Hey, how were the fish biting last weekend? You eating fish for dinner tonight? Now, we all know we have some receivers that would want to talk all day long, and that could throw us off our timing. And we know one of the things we want to be is on time for our deliveries because that builds credibility. So you have to do your best to balance that likability and credibility. So we're not trying to coach you talk all day long about fishing, right? It's easy to fall into that trap, but how can you kind of create that personal greeting up front? Here's another example. Hi, I'm Stan from Borden. I'll be your delivery driver. You introduce yourself. You sound professional and personable. Hey, how's your day going so far? What can I do to make your life easier? Joe, your last driver, said you like to keep the gallons in the back left corner. Is that right? So you've demonstrated you have a little connection to the last RSR, and that way you can connect with them and really show, oh, I'm glad I've got Stan here. So take a moment and think about one of your upcoming deliveries. Maybe a new receiver's in there. Maybe it's a new person on your route. How can you open with enthusiasm and personal connection and ask a deliberate rapport question? And a deliberate rapport question is beyond, hey, how you doing today? That's a flat one. Ask one that's a little bit more specific that is hard for them not to answer and want to engage with you. Sound good? I know you can do it. Let's write down 1 or 2 examples for an upcoming delivery you have in the next day or 2. Go for it. All right, so this is the last thing in the create a connection step, and it's what we call a conversation stack. Now, I mentioned before, it's really critical that we stay on our route and we watch our timing. We don't want to be that person that takes, 80 hours to do a 40-hour route. That's not going to work, right? Long term, especially. At the same time, we've got to have a delicate balance of building relationships with the people within an account, our customers. So that's the receiver, that's the dairy manager, it's the other people, the clerks in the store. When you have a great relationship with everybody, everything goes easier and smoother. And in fact, they're going to help you do your job. This particular tool is really useful in being interested in people. Dale Carnegie said it. He says, focus on being interested, not trying to be interesting. And you know this, right? We've taught this as a kid. Ask questions about other people. And if you look at this tool here, this is just some ideas on what you can ask about. And again, being careful not to, get too deep into a conversation that's going to throw you off your route. But maybe one day you're a little ahead of schedule and you have a moment. Maybe it's a Wednesday when you have a little bit of a lighter route and it allows you the time to kind of build some relationship. So some easy questions to ask, of course, open-ended, and something I've learned is must-react questions where it gets the person to talk and maybe share a little bit more, as much as they're comfortable with, right? So the first thing is we call it a conversation stack. So a nameplate is to indicate and remind you, get the person's name. So don't, if you've worked with somebody or seen the same receiver over and over and you continue to call them, hey, Chief. So the first picture to think about to remind you is the nameplate. Get a person's name. So when you greet them by name, maybe you work with a school, right? There's different people within the school. Greet them by name. It makes a big difference. That's the sweetest sound in any language. The next question is, again, be careful. We're not asking you to get, overstep bounds, right? But you might create a connection by saying, hey, so where are you from? Or what area of town do you live in? And again, the purpose is just to understand their situation a little bit better. The next thing is the family portrait. And this one here, you want to be careful, right? You don't want to say, hey, so you married? That could be awkward and inappropriate, right? So you might ask these questions. So, do you have family in the area? Or tell me about your family. People are really passionate, and this will create that personal connection with someone. Next are golf clubs. That is to trigger, okay, what do you do for fun? What are you doing for fun this weekend, right? And stuff that's going on, and it's just an opportunity when maybe you're moving the inventory in the back, you can ask some of these questions that help you create an even tighter connection with someone. So just to quickly go through these, picture someone with work gloves on, right? Hey, how long have you worked here? How did you get started in this business, or take an interest in that? Next thing is an airplane. So, hey, what vacation plans do you have for this summer? After that is passion juice. I think about drinking some passion juice. And this is about, they usually reveal something they're passionate about. Maybe they're really involved with their church. Maybe they're really involved in a sport. Maybe they're really involved in some other activity that they've revealed to you, like fishing, right? So when you identify their passion, you can ask questions about it. Hey, what happened in the football game this weekend? Or what's happening here? So how about those Cowboys? How about those Patriots? Whatever it is, asking those questions, something they're passionate about. And then the last thing is a reminder to hand them a bouquet of flowers. Thank them. Hey, really enjoyed working with you. It's been a real pleasure. And it's a kind of just a visual of handing them a bouquet of flowers, like, thank you, and I really like working with you. This is called the conversation stack. So this puts a bow on the first step, which is create a connection. We know you do this each and every day. We're challenging you to put this into practice and really drive for that perfect 10. So get your route ride, your reference guide here. And at the bottom, write down 1, 2, or 3 customers that you're going to be doing a delivery in the next couple of days. And you can execute this create a connection where you can do it even better. And now we'll move on to the next step, which is the 3 R's. I'll tell you more about that. So something I heard consistently from east to west was fresh product sells more. And when it comes to the second step of the cream process, the 3 R's, review, rotate, restock, it's all about doing these things flawlessly and being aware of the little things so you have fresher product. So that way when people go to the cooler, they look at it, it's fresh, they wanna buy it. They're not gonna hesitate. But it's all those little things, and it's being able to execute on those. So on this page, you'll take a look. These are some of the best practices that we picked up from the field that can help you really be on your game in this step. Take a moment, review this list, and put a check or write down 1 or 2 that you'd like to execute at an even higher level. We know you're doing it, but how can you do it even better? Take a look at this list, write one down, and think about a customer where you'll actually execute it in the next couple of days. Here's one of those think right pages. Take a moment, review these questions, think about it, and then jot down your ideas below and review them with your DSL. So let's wrap up step 2. It was a short amount of time, but it's really a critical step in the process. Think about 1, 2, or 3 customers that you're going to see in the next couple of days where you can be even more on your game, and then jot it down on your pocket guide. What are those 3 customers? What are you going to do to up your game as it relates to review, rotate, and restock? You've probably heard the term upsell. Well, we actually like the term upserve. We believe we're better servicing our customers when we look for and can anticipate some of their needs. And when we do that, we can help improve or increase their volume. That means increase sales for them and increase sales for us. Usually, we're stealing that from the competition. So as it relates to the cream process, step number 3 is about that engage and upserve mentality, where we're not just going in and doing our routine and delivering the milk and then walking out and, not even thinking about it. But when we go in to a customer where we're looking for opportunities, we're looking at their buildups and, is there some opportunities, maybe some additional product because a holiday's coming up. Maybe we have a kid builder or some other new innovative product that we can share with them and we can help them, sell even more. So engage and upserve is really where we're looking out for our customers, kind of having that ownership mentality for them. On this page here are some examples and some ideas that we picked up from the field that you can use. So take a moment, read through this list. What one or two resonate with you that you can put into play immediately, right? What's a customer that comes to mind? Jot that down. What can you do and how can you do it? And I like to just focus you on one, maybe two or three customers. Don't try to focus on your entire route. You probably won't get it done. But if you think about that one where it's a really good opportunity, maybe to add a bunker, or maybe take advantage of the seasonal trend, they're going to be selling more tea or something like that. Or maybe trying to capture some extra space because it's Thanksgiving and you can sell more buttermilk, things like that. Look for those opportunities and look for ways to engage and upserve your client. So on the last page, there were some good ideas. I'm sure it triggered some ideas, some things that you've done in the past. But take a moment and do a think right here, right? Take these questions and think about them. What are some things that you've done? What are some opportunities that you might have in the future with some specific customers? And review down below here some of the most common incremental sales opportunities that you can be looking for. Things like looking for bunkers or floor displays that you can set up. Seasonal, a competitor's product is running low. You see that it's running low. Maybe they're getting cut short. Maybe you can grab additional space. And I understand that you have certain, planograms that you have set up, but the customer where you have ability to maybe grab some extra space, and others that, certainly isn't part of your responsibility or ability, if you will. But always being aware and trying to look for those opportunities. And it might be talking to the customer, but it could be talking to someone in sales or talking to your supervisor to say, hey, we have an opportunity here. Let's try to take advantage of it. Take a moment, go through this page, and then we'll talk about some engage and upserve questions you can use that can get the conversation started with your customers on your route. So on this page, we want to first share with you a few examples of how you can get the conversation started with your customer. Now, you know which customers to use these on. Each one's a little bit different. Sometimes the receiver or the dairy manager has a little bit more autonomy to do something. So you know which ones to have these conversations in. In some customers, it's pretty much locked down via sales, and we understand that you're limited there. So choose your opportunities. But it all starts with asking good questions that can get people talking and get people thinking. And when you do that, you're usually asking open-ended questions where you can get people's thoughts or opinions. So you take a look at this page. Think about if you were able to use some of these questions in some of your customers' accounts. For example, hey, what promotions or sales do you have coming up, right? That might help you maybe adjust your order so you have enough product, you have fresh product in there, right? Hey, what special events do you have coming up? Hey, the weather's getting pretty hot. Where can we set up some bunkers for tea? Maybe you can get out ahead of the competition. It's simple. Hey, what can I do to help you increase sales? You might ask this on a few different deliveries that you do, and you get them thinking, and when they think Borden, they think, oh, how can I increase sales? They're going to think about you even after you leave. Hey, how can I help you sell even more? Put in the product, right? Chocolate milk, chocolate pints or tea, all right? Or, hey, how can I help you sell even more? You plug it in. Tea, chocolate milk pints, whatever the product is. If it's a hot moving product, how can you help them sell even more? And if you come in there with that type of mentality, they're going to be thinking about you as just beyond someone who's going to deliver their product, about someone who's going to help them improve their business. So take a moment, use this page, think about it, right? What are some things you can do? What are some opportunities specifically on your route that you might be able to take advantage of? And how does it benefit the customer? So think about a specific customer and how it benefits them, because they don't care about just moving more product for you. They care about their business. Why should they care about it? And I know if you just take a moment here, you could probably identify one or two things you could do and how that's going to benefit your customer. So do you have some ideas? I bet you do, right? If you don't, stop the video, go back and think about it, because only you know your customers as well as anybody else. Only you know what's the opportunities right now. And with just a moment of thought, you should be able to identify at least one opportunity where you can step in and bring your A game when it comes to engaging in upserving. And next is to get out your trusty pocket guide and jot down those 1, 2, 3 customers that you can engage this step at an even higher level in the next couple 3 days. Sound fair? All right. I'll see you at the next step, which is acknowledge and confirm. One of the most powerful sales techniques that is underused is listening. And when we listen, people are actually more likely to accept and trust the options that we provide to them. And sometimes people call these pitches. Well, if we're pitching, that's really not the case. We want to look for opportunities and suggest ideas, and our intention should be good. So if we're listening and we acknowledge that we understand a person's situation, it's going to lead to a much better relationship. A way you can build trust with your customers at an even higher level is when you acknowledge and confirm. What that means is when you're about to depart the delivery, then just to slow down and try to catch that dairy manager, try to catch that receiver or that clerk, right? And just reconfirm what you left, what you did. It may be the same thing you've done day in, day out, but quickly take 30 seconds, maybe a minute, just to remind them, hey, I put, I rotated the stock in the back. I brought this up front. I noticed the floor was a little wet. I mopped the floor. Listen, we're a little short on chocolate pints, but I think it's going to cover you till Wednesday. But if you run short, let me know, right? Especially in those cases, right? Let them know if you're short. Don't just try to hustle out of there and hope it goes well, right? We know that doesn't go well. So step number 4 is all about acknowledging and confirming. So you know more than I. Take a moment here, slow down, think, use these questions, and take a moment and write down what you do and some things you do to acknowledge and confirm. Now, chances are you have all these points down on the previous page. These are some ideas and things that we observed some of the top RSRs doing. They basically confirm regular items on their delivery. If they're short product, if they left extra product because they know that they're selling more of it, let them know it's in the back. So if it runs out in the front cooler, they know to go back there and restock it. Remind their clerks to restock it. Check code dates. Remind the customer to rotate that product. And just the little things. This is something I observed with a lot of different top performing RSRs. Things like how they organize the cooler, set it up, how they stack the cases, and how they keep things clean, and maybe do something that's even beyond their responsibility, like maybe mopping up the floor or helping them with other product that needs to be moved around. I heard, for example, when you're working in a school and maybe other delivery people have dumped different product around, but you have an extra minute or two and you actually kind of go in above beyond, you maybe help organize, and they notice that, they trust you, and that leads to even more business and a longer term relationship. Take a moment and jot down your thoughts on this question below. So let's wrap up step number 4. Below are some examples of what confirmation might sound like. So you can see these 2 different examples. They're just very conversational, something you probably already do, but are you doing it on each and every delivery? And if you're not, this is an opportunity just to add a point 2 in there, making sure you stop in and look them in the eye, because who knows, that extra check-in could lead to additional business, right? Or help uncover maybe an issue that they're having that you can help them with. Again, we are Borden. We're about being the best in the business, and this is one of those little things that can make a big difference. So let's wrap up this step by grabbing your trusty pocket guide and jotting down 1, 2, or 3 customers that you're going to have a delivery in the next couple of days, and how you'll acknowledge and execute step number 4 flawlessly. Perfect 10. All right, we'll see you on step number 5. Think about the word for a moment, remarkable. What does that mean? I thought about it for a moment and it's worth remarking, right? You did something that's worth telling somebody else about. So step number 5 is kind of this kind of catch-all of what are we doing as an RSR that's worth remarking? What can that dairy manager maybe say to somebody else in their store, or receiver say maybe to another vendor like, hey, I wish you were more like the Borden person, right? It's like something worth remarking about. And when you do those things and it's everything kind of coming together that make you remarkable. And that's different things in each account, because each account and each person is just a little bit different. We have a few ideas here. We're going to start off by asking you to think, okay? Use these questions here. Answer some questions. What do you do to say thank you in a sincere way beyond, hey, thank you, right? Something that's kind of a throwaway line, kind of like what they say to you on an airline, right? Oh, thanks for flying XYZ airline. Do they really care? What do you do to really make it remarkable? Take a moment and write down those answers on this page, and I'll see you on the next one. Here's a worksheet and a couple of examples to get you started. Some of these things you might do and you just do it unconsciously. We want to think about how we can do this more consciously and in a deliberate way. And there are probably some accounts that you do this and is a natural great rapport. But what are some of those customers on your route that really could take that relationship to the next level? And it might be just in your making it remarkable step where you're being thoughtful about this. So you can see this example here. Here's Billy at Marathon. Hey, Billy, I left you some extra chocolate pints. Those are really moving. These should cover you until Thursday. If you need anything, give me a call and I'll get it taken care of. Now, you have a great night, and I hope your son gets a lot of hits in his game tonight. Thanks again for your business. I really appreciate it. Here's Jose at Dollar General. Hey, Jose, I'm running low on pints, but I did manage to save you 20. If you run low, give me a holler and I'll have my supervisor run out with some, right? So you think that he might get by, and then just wrap it up with, hey, thanks for the business, Jose. My wife and kids depend on it. Be good tonight and hope you rake in a few bucks at the poker game, right? So those little things, I'm just making stuff up here, but there's a worksheet here that you could use to think about 1 or 2 customers that you're going to deliver to tomorrow where you can really make it remarkable. If you want to take a moment, you can review this page here where there are some examples of additional things that we picked up from other RSRs. Some things beyond just the words, but things you can do that really make a difference over time that make you worth remarking. All right. So choose 1, 2, or 3 customers, and you know the drill by now, right? Get your card out and jot down those customers down below. 3 customers that you're going to see in the next few days. What can you do to make that delivery remarkable? Take a moment, do that now. It bears repeating again. It's not what we know, it's what we do. And here at Borden, we're all about being the best, the cream of the business. And that requires constant attention to the details, about execution and bringing our A game, our best versions of ourselves each and every delivery. At the end of the delivery, you might even say to yourself, did I win? Did I win this delivery? Did I make it exceptional, right? And if you can say to yourself that you did, then that means we've all got a bright future. And chances are, when you win each and every delivery, you're going to have a lot more fun at work. But that requires a lot of focus and attention. And it's easy to kind of get loose in the turns. So this last page here is to get you to think about how you can continually put this into play, how you can bring your A game, maybe even ask your fellow RSRs what they're doing and how they can hold you accountable. Working with your DSL to ask them to step into your business and go out and do a route ride, if that makes sense, to help you maybe identify some blind spots. But take a moment and look at this page and think about these questions and answer those. And when you get those done, use this page especially when you wrap up and talk to your DSL about some of your answers and have a good conversation, because chances are that together you guys can really crush your route and help make your zone even more successful and help Borden even become even more successful. So slow down, think about this, answer these questions, and be sure to touch on this page with your DSL. Anyone in any profession that really excels has a great coach. Great coaches help us get even more out of ourselves, right? If you've ever gone out for a run with somebody or gone to the gym, typically when you're with a great coach, they kind of push you just a little bit more. And in addition to the RSR playbook, we've put together a program for the coaches, the district sales leaders. And this process, they'll be executing and working hand in glove with you with the RSR sales playbook. Now, on this page, you can take a look. Here's some of the ways that your coach is engaging with you. Number one, it's about having a relationship with one another. Him or her understanding you and your situation, so that way they can be a good coach, right? So they're going to be working on this, and I ask you to work on this with them. The other thing that we are implementing are what we call game plan meetings. This is just about 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes to sit down and put together a game plan for your route, to talk about the next 7 days and what your plan is and how you're going to really crush it and really execute the cream process. In addition to that, they may go out and do route rides with you. And when they do, they'll reference this sheet here. And the purpose of this is to just look for opportunities on how you can execute the cream process at an even higher level. This is not about a game of a gotcha. This is about how can we make the next one better, right? And working together, because that's what this industry requires. We have got to be at the top of our game so that way we continue to win. In addition to that, they'll be coaching on the fly. So they might catch you in the morning before you head out and you're loading your truck. Maybe on the way back in when you're unloading or moving or organizing your truck for the next day. They might just step into your world and ask a few questions. And that allows you also to run some things by them, share with them some of the successes you had, maybe how you're executing cream on your route. And then along the way, every once in a while, we may have an issue that comes up that requires a difficult conversation, right? Maybe we are getting loose in the turns, and we know a good coach steps in and helps us get us back on track. And then lastly, sales huddles. These are going to be small groups of RSRs getting together and owning a huddle and talking about how you're putting this stuff into play, sharing best practices, sharing challenges you're running into, and looking for ideas on how you can overcome this. So this is a framework that they're working on, and we wanted to share that with you so you understand how you can work with your supervisor to really just be the best you can be. So lastly, think about how you best work with a coach. Each one of us have different buttons we like pushed. So think about that, so that way you can give feedback to your coach on what works well or how they can help you be an even better you. Take a moment on this page, answer these questions down below, think about it, and then share your answers with your district sales leader. So as a final wrap up, we have this worksheet for you, and it's some action steps. Again, it's not what we know, it's what we do. Did we bring our A game to that delivery? Here are some example action steps, and it will give you an example of how you can be super specific and less broad versus, hey, I'm really going to focus on building rapport with my customers. That's not really actionable. What specifically, what customer, and what are you going to do? So you can see we have some examples here, plus the worksheet down below, so that way you can write down some truly actionable next steps that can help you get closer to that perfect 10. So we've just covered the entire RSR playbook, and this is something that you can revisit from time to time. We know you have the capability to bring a perfect 10 performance, and it's not easy, folks, right? Because we get a lot of roadblocks thrown our way. But just to bring us back to the beginning of the program, right? Any given day, we know you are delivering that 9.4 performance. We want to challenge you to think about how you can continually add 0.2s to your routine so you can consistently take that 9.4 to 9.6 to 9.8 to a perfect 10. And if we all commit to this and we focus on the next delivery and how we can make that one even better, that is going to make the entire company better. And that's going to make things a lot more fun, and we're going to have a really bright future. So thanks for taking some time on this program. But now the ball's in your court, folks. Take a moment, review your answers with your DSL, engage with other RSRs, but each and every day make a commitment that you are going to do your very best to execute a perfect 10. We'll be talking to you, and thanks for your time.